Hey warriors, welcome back to the channel. Before this video begins, answer one question. Honestly, how many of your decisions are made out of fear? Fear of rejection, fear of disappointing someone, fear of not being liked? If that fear exists, then you are being controlled. Today, we are going to solve a problem that silently destroys millions, the curse of being a people pleaser. By the end of this video, the weak version of you will no longer exist. Only the sharpened Machiavellian version will remain. There is a silent disease that spreads through society far more effectively than fear or violence, and yet it is rarely acknowledged for the destruction it causes. It is the disease of pleasing others, a sickness that convinces you that your worth is measured by how comfortable you make others feel, how easily you bend to their needs, and how smoothly you silence your own voice. This disease does not appear threatening at first. It disguises itself as kindness, generosity, empathy. But like all poisons, its sweetness is what makes it deadly. It enters your life in small ways: a forced smile when someone disrespects you, a hesitant nod when you want to say no, a delayed dream because someone else wanted something from you first. It grows silently until the person you once were is buried beneath layers of compliance. Machiavelli understood that humans are creatures of advantage. They respond not to your intentions, but to your behavior. And when you behave like someone desperate to be liked, they do not see kindness. They see an opportunity. They see a door that never locks, a resource they can extract from endlessly, a person who will soften at the slightest pressure. It is not that people are inherently cruel. It is simply that human nature is wired to favor those who assert themselves and to exploit those who do not. In the political courts of Florence, a man who tried to please everyone pleased no one. He became invisible, forgettable, and easily controlled. The same principle applies today. The person obsessed with pleasing others becomes the perfect target for manipulation. This disease convinces you that maintaining peace is more important than maintaining dignity. It whispers that love must be earned, that respect must be purchased with endless sacrifice, that conflict is a crisis rather than a tool. So you avoid confrontation, hoping harmony will protect you. But harmony achieved through self-abandonment is not harmony, it is servitude. You think that by giving more, you will be valued more. But the paradox is that the more you give, the more they expect, and the more invisible you become. When someone knows you will always say yes, your yes loses all value. When someone knows you will tolerate disrespect, your presence loses all weight. Eventually, you become background noise in your own life. Every people pleaser begins with a wound. Perhaps rejection, abandonment, criticism, or instability taught you that love must be earned. This wound convinces you that your safety depends on how well you can predict and satisfy the expectations of others. But what began as survival becomes self-destruction. You start to adjust your tone, your desires, your decisions, your identity, hoping to stay acceptable, hoping to avoid being unwanted. Yet in trying to be everything for everyone, you lose the one thing that makes you powerful, yourself. A person without a defined self becomes an empty vessel, waiting to be filled by the demands of the world. Machiavelli observed that those who lack an inner core must borrow strength from the approval of others. This makes them fragile, reactive, and easily controlled. When you depend on external validation, everyone becomes your ruler. A co-worker's disappointment becomes your command. A friend's discomfort becomes your responsibility. A stranger's opinion becomes your mirror. You start living not from intention but from fear. Fear of being disliked, misunderstood, judged, or abandoned. This is the true damage of the disease. It steals your autonomy. Your life becomes a performance stage for an audience that is never pleased for long. To understand the disease of pleasing others, you must understand its currency. It trades your authenticity for acceptance, your boundaries for peace, your power for approval. It convinces you to prioritize feelings over truth, comfort over courage, and politeness over self-respect. You become agreeable to avoid being alone, compliant to avoid conflict, and quiet to avoid attention. But what you avoid becomes what controls you. Conflict becomes terrifying, rejection becomes catastrophic, and silence becomes a prison where your real thoughts suffocate in the dark. The world does not reward the person who bends. It rewards the person who stands firm. The world does not follow the one who whispers, it follows the one who speaks with conviction. And the world does not protect those who sacrifice themselves for others, it protects those who protect themselves. When you erase your needs to maintain relationships, you enter relationships where your needs do not matter. When you hide your thoughts to avoid judgment, you create a life built on falsehoods. And when you silence yourself to keep peace, you create a world that is peaceful for everyone except you. The disease of pleasing others is powerful because it feels moral, noble, even righteous. But Machiavelli, with his unflinching clarity, would tell you that morality without strength is a trap. Kindness without boundaries is a weapon pointed at your own throat, and a heart that constantly bends eventually breaks. The moment you realize that pleasing others is not kindness but self-betrayal, the moment you see that your fear of upsetting others has cost you years of your life, the moment you understand that the world respects the assertive and forgets the accommodating, that is the moment you begin to awaken from this disease. There comes a point in every person's life when they must confront a truth that is as uncomfortable as it is liberating. Your obsession with being approved by others is the chain that keeps you enslaved. Approval feels warm, comforting, reassuring. It gives the illusion of belonging and the illusion of safety. But Machiavelli understood something most people never realize. Approval is a luxury, not a necessity, and the moment it becomes a necessity, it becomes your master. The strongest individuals you admire are not driven by applause. They are driven by purpose. They are unmoved by praise, undisturbed by criticism, and unshaken by rejection. Their value comes from within, not from the shifting winds of public opinion. X of human psychology is that the more you crave approval, the less of it you receive. Why? Because craving it makes you predictable. It reveals your insecurities. It exposes your weaknesses. Those who depend on praise make decisions that are safe, pleasing, and convenient. Not decisions that are powerful, necessary, or strategic. In a world where everyone judges, a person who is desperate to be liked becomes the easiest target to manipulate. Approval becomes the key to controlling you, and others learn to press that key without even thinking. A disappointed look becomes enough to guilt you. A slight tone shift becomes enough to soften your boundaries. A subtle withdrawal of praise becomes enough to make you bend. But look at history. Look at the people who left a mark so deep it survived centuries. They did not bow for approval. They did not alter their path to make others comfortable. They did not dilute themselves to avoid offense. Machiavelli wrote that a leader who depends on popularity is like a ship relying on calm waters. One storm and he is destroyed. Strength is not built on applause. Strength is built on self-certainty. When you are unmoved by approval, you become unshakable. The power of detachment is not coldness, nor is it arrogance. It is clarity. It is the ability to hear praise without becoming addicted to it, and to hear criticism without being wounded by it. When someone praises you, they are expressing their perspective, not your identity. When someone criticizes you, they are revealing their standards, not your worth. Detachment means you do not collapse every time someone disapproves. You do not crumble when someone misunderstands. You do not panic when someone withdraws affection. You remain centered, grounded, and focused on your purpose. Imagine two individuals walking into a room. One is scanning every face, every gesture, every reaction, trying to figure out who likes them and who doesn't. Their value rises and falls with every glance. The other walks in with a steady presence, uninterested in gaining approval and unwilling to lose themselves for it. They observe, they assess, but they do not bend. Who holds the power in that room? It is never the one seeking acceptance. It is always the one who enters with a mind that cannot be swayed by opinion. Growing up, most people are conditioned to associate acceptance with survival. Children learn quickly that making others happy reduces conflict and increases affection. But adulthood is different. In adulthood, the people who desperately seek approval are the ones who get drained. They accept mistreatment because they fear rejection. They keep silent because they fear judgment. They overextend themselves because they fear being replaced. This is not survival, it is self-erasure. The adult who seeks approval is like a tree growing in the wrong direction, bending toward every passing wind, incapable of standing tall. Detachment from approval is the foundation of power because it shifts you from reactive to intentional. A person trapped in the need for validation reacts to everything: tone, expression, opinion, silence. But a person free from validation acts from inner conviction. Their compass is internal, not external. Their choices come from self-understanding, not social pressure. This is the kind of power Machiavelli respected, because it makes you unpredictable. You no longer play by the emotional rules others try to impose on you. You no longer over-explain your actions. You no longer panic when someone does not approve. Your presence becomes enigmatic, and enigmas are powerful. This detachment also protects your emotional energy. When you rely on approval, your emotions belong to others. Your highs and lows are at the mercy of their reactions. But when you detach, your emotional balance returns to your control. You gain the power to decide what affects you and what does not. You gain the power to ignore noise and focus on signal. You gain the power to listen without absorbing. People speak freely around power, but they step carefully around fear. And the one who is not moved by approval becomes someone others cannot casually sway. Most importantly, detachment from validation reveals your true identity. Without the constant pressure to be liked, you start to act as yourself, not as a filtered version of yourself. Your voice becomes more authentic. Your decisions become more aligned with your goals. Your boundaries become stronger. And slowly, the world begins to respond differently. People stop testing you. They stop doubting you. They stop assuming you will bend. They sense something in you, an inner core that cannot be touched by opinion and cannot be shaken by disapproval. This core is what gives you presence. It is what creates respect. It is what transforms you from someone who pleases into someone who commands. There comes a stage in every person's evolution where they realize that boundaries are not an optional tool for living. They are the armor that protects your time, your energy, and your identity. People often misunderstand boundaries, believing they are acts of aggression or selfishness. But Machiavelli knew the truth long before modern psychology named it. He understood that those who cannot draw lines are destined to be ruled by those who can. Boundaries are not walls built from anger, they are walls built from self-respect. And the individual who fails to erect them becomes a servant to the demands of others, a vessel endlessly drained by anyone who decides they are entitled to your life. In every era of power, from ancient empires to the courts of Florence, leaders were destroyed not by their enemies, but by the people they allowed too close. When your time and emotional space are open to everyone, you become vulnerable to manipulation. The cunning will take advantage of your availability. The needy will take advantage of your empathy. The dominant will take advantage of your silence. A boundary is not merely a refusal, it is a declaration that you refuse to operate on someone else's terms. It is the difference between being respected and being used. People pleasers struggle with boundaries because their greatest fear is the discomfort of others. They imagine scenarios where saying no leads to conflict, rejection, judgment, or loss of affection, so they comply. They smile, they sacrifice their needs to satisfy expectations. But this compliance is not kindness. It is self-betrayal disguised as politeness. Every time you say yes when your mind screams no, you teach others that your feelings are negotiable. Every time you let someone overstep without consequence, you broadcast that you can be stepped on without resistance. People may not consciously intend to exploit you, but human nature gravitates toward convenience, and a person without boundaries becomes the most convenient resource of all. A Machiavellian mind understands that boundaries are not expressed with hostility, but with clarity. There is no need to shout, to argue, or to defend. The powerful enforce boundaries with calm certainty, as if they are stating a fact rather than issuing a threat. When someone tries to push them, they do not panic. They do not explain themselves into exhaustion. They simply reaffirm the boundary and allow the consequences to unfold. This calmness is terrifying to those who rely on guilt or emotional pressure to control you, because guilt only works on those who need approval. Pressure only works on those who fear conflict. But the person who has mastered boundaries fears neither. Think of your life as a fortress. The gate cannot remain open at all hours. Not everyone deserves entry. Some people deserve only the courtyard. Others may deserve nothing more than a distant handshake at the gate. Few earn access to the inner chambers of your time, your attention, and your emotions. The mistake most people make is allowing strangers, acquaintances, and even manipulative personalities into rooms they have not earned. Boundaries are the architecture of selective access. They determine who gets to influence your thoughts, who gets to drain your energy, and who gets to shape your environment. Enforcing boundaries will not make everyone happy, and this is exactly why it works. The people who benefit from your lack of boundaries will protest the loudest. They will call you selfish, rude, distant, or difficult. That is a sign you have finally stopped living at their convenience. The ones who respect your boundaries will remain, and those who exploit will fall away. Either outcome strengthens you. Boundaries reveal who is truly in your corner and who is simply using your presence for their own comfort. Many people hesitate to set boundaries because they believe it requires confrontation. But boundaries begin internally long before they are spoken. They start with the belief that you deserve respect, that your time has value, and that your emotional well-being is not a negotiation tool. When this belief becomes rooted in your mind, your behavior shifts naturally. You stop explaining everything. You stop rushing to fix everyone's discomfort. You stop tolerating inconsistency. You stop giving immediate access to people who have not earned trust. These internal boundaries shape your external world without force. Machiavelli observed that a leader must be both the lion and the fox, bold enough to act and wise enough to anticipate. Boundaries require both. You must be lion-hearted in your refusal to be mistreated, but fox-minded enough to recognize manipulative patterns before they fully emerge. Some people test boundaries subtly, a request here, an intrusion there, an assumption that slowly grows. Without awareness, these small acts accumulate, and suddenly your life no longer feels like your own. But with awareness, you stop the erosion before it begins. The power of boundaries is not simply in what they protect you from, but in what they create for you. When you stop giving your energy to everyone who demands it, you begin to cultivate it for yourself. Your mind becomes clearer, your relationships become healthier, your goals become sharper, your emotional stability returns. You begin to feel a sense of authority within your own life. Others start to sense it too. They speak to you with more respect. They hesitate before making irresponsible demands. They treat you not as an option, but as a person with structure, direction, and standards. Boundaries, when mastered, transform you from someone who reacts to the world into someone who shapes it. There is a moment in every transformation where the person you once were begins to crumble, not because life has defeated you, but because you have finally outgrown the weaker version of yourself. The process is not gentle, it is not comfortable, it is not meant to be. Growth, in its truest form, is a violent stripping away of illusions. Illusions about who you must be, who you must serve, and who you must keep pleasing. Machiavelli wrote not for the tender-hearted, but for those brave enough to confront themselves. And the darkest lessons you must learn are not the ones aimed at others. They are the ones aimed at the fragile, approval-seeking self you must bury. These lessons are not soft truths that encourage you. They are harsh truths that challenge you, exposing the weakness you have tried to hide, to destroy the people-pleaser within. You must first understand that your weakness has never come from kindness, generosity, or empathy. Your weakness has always come from fear. Fear of conflict, fear of disapproval, fear of being alone, fear of pain. Misunderstood. And fear shapes you far more intimately than you realize. It shapes the tone of your voice when you speak your truth. It shapes the choices you make when someone demands more than they deserve. It shapes the way you negotiate your worth. The darkest lessons are meant to illuminate that fear so clearly that you can no longer lie to yourself about its presence. The first dark lesson is simple. Not everyone benefits from your strength. Some people benefit from your weakness. The moment you begin to grow, you disrupt the comfortable dynamic others have built around you. People who have relied on your silence will resist your voice. People who have relied on your compliance will resist your boundaries. People who have relied on your fragility will resist your strength. When you evolve, you are not just changing yourself. You are changing the roles others were comfortably playing around you. And this disruption often reveals their true intentions more clearly than their words ever did. The second dark lesson is that self-respect always requires sacrifice. You cannot gain respect without losing something along the way. You may lose people who only loved you for your softness. You may lose opportunities that required you to shrink yourself. You may lose comfort because comfort is the home of your old self. But for every loss created by self-respect, there is a gain much greater. You gain clarity about who truly values you. you gain inner stability. You gain the ability to walk through the world without apologizing for your existence. Machiavelli knew that every rise in power comes with a price, and those unwilling to pay the price remain weak. Another dark lesson emerges when you stop seeking validation and start directing your own path. You must become willing to stand alone. Not forever, not in bitterness, but in strength. The people pleaser inside you clings to others for identity, afraid that solitude means failure. But solitude is where power is born. When you are alone, you learn to hear your own thoughts without the noise of expectations. You learn to act for yourself instead of reacting for others. You learn to develop an identity that is not shaped by approval. And that identity becomes unbreakable because it is rooted in your own convictions rather than borrowed opinions. A particularly intimidating truth is that not every conflict is harmful. In fact, some conflicts are essential. A person who avoids conflict avoids growth. They avoid clarity. They avoid truth. Machiavelli understood that tension reveals loyalty, honesty, and strength in ways harmony never can. Conflict exposes the genuine intentions of others. It exposes your own thresholds. When you fear conflict, you allow others to cross lines they should never have touched. But when you become comfortable with uncomfortable conversations, your relationships purify. Only those who respect you remain, and those who depended on your weakness dissolve. One of the darkest lessons, perhaps the one that scars the deepest, is that you must let go of the desire to be understood. People pleasers suffer not because they are kind, but because they are constantly explaining themselves to people incapable of understanding them. They try to justify every boundary, every decision, every emotion. But explanation drains power. True power comes from acting with certainty, even in the face of misunderstanding. When you stop explaining yourself, you reclaim your time, your energy, and your dignity. Those who respect you will adjust. Those who don't were never aligned with your growth to begin with. And perhaps the darkest lesson of all is that becoming unshakable requires embracing the parts of yourself you have been taught to fear. The assertive part, the decisive part, the unapologetic part. You have buried these qualities because you believed they were dangerous, rude, or selfish. But these traits are not your enemy. They are your spine. They are the inner armor you abandoned to please others. When you bring them back, you do not become cruel. You become complete. You become someone who can love without losing themselves, who can help others without destroying themselves, who can walk through life without begging for permission to exist. And now you stand at the threshold of a choice, one that will shape not only how the world treats you, but how you treat yourself. You have walked through the darkest lessons, confronted the truth about your fear, your silence, and your self-betrayal. You have seen the architecture of your weakness and the blueprint of your power. But knowledge alone changes nothing. It is the courage to apply these truths that transforms you, the people pleaser inside. You has survived for years because you fed it with your hesitation, your need for approval, your fear of displeasing others. Yet the moment you decide to starve it, it dies. Understand this with the clarity Machiavelli lived by. The world does not reward the agreeable, it rewards the assertive. It does not protect those who bend, it protects those who stand firm. It does not honor those who seek permission, it honors those who command presence. The version of you that pleases everyone may feel safe, but it is powerless. The version of you who enforces boundaries, who speaks truth without trembling, who refuses to be manipulated by expectation. This version is dangerous, respected, unforgettable. You do not become ruthless by abandoning kindness. You become powerful by abandoning self-sacrifice. You do not become cold by detaching from validation. You become invincible by detaching from fear. The darkest lessons were never meant to harden you. They were meant to awaken you. Every refusal you make sharpens your identity. Every boundary draws the blueprint of your dignity. Every moment of courage reconstructs the world around you into a place where you are no longer a shadow in someone else's story, but the main force in your own. The weak version of you was built by fear. The stronger version of you is built by truth. And the truth is simple. You owe the world nothing, and you owe yourself everything. Step into that truth with the certainty of someone who has finally seen through the illusions that once controlled them. Walk forward not as a people pleaser, but as someone who commands respect effortlessly, not through force, but through the unshakable power of self-possession. This is not the end of your transformation. It is the beginning.